Hello and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Tuesday, April 7th edition of our video devotionals. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope your Tuesday is going well. And we're going to be in Judges chapter 6 today. I think we're going to be in verse number 25, read down a little bit more lengthy reading, so we're going to kind of jump into it kind of quickly. So we want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the acknowledgments. We appreciate you. And this is our 7th year now we're going into. And hopefully we can continue to do these as long as the Lord allows and as long as we have people that will view it, right? All right. So the book of Judges, of course, is about judges, people that were raised up by God to help deliver Israel out of the hand of their enemies, and some very interesting characters. And one of those characters and people that lived was Gideon. And actually the Bible devotes a lot of time to Gideon, a lot of events to Gideon. And so we're going to look at kind of before he gets into the battle mode, so to speak, we're going to look at something the Lord had him do that's quite interesting. Don't you notice in Judges chapter 6, verse 25? Now we know the Lord's already approached Gideon, told him about the mission, and then there's something that the Lord wants Gideon to do, and I think this kind of puts Gideon kind of on the map, so to speak. Notice here verse 25, and it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, Take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it, and build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of this rock in the ordered place. And take the second bullock, and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which thou shalt cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants, and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, that he did it by night. Look at verse 28. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it. And the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said one to another, Who hath done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, hath done this thing. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, Bring out thy son, that he may die, because he hath cast down the altar of Baal, and because he hath cut down the grove that was by it. Now notice verse 31. This is kind of the interesting part. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, Will ye plead for Baal? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death, whilst it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. Therefore on that day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, Let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar. Now we're going to stop right there, because that's a very interesting part of the life of Gideon here. And there's a great principle here, It's like, here's these people. They're all upset because the altar of Baal, false god, has been broken down, cast down. And then there's this grove, these trees, and that's been chopped down, or at least a portion of that. And they come to Dad and say, Look, your son needs to die because of this. And he basically says, Look, if Baal's a god, let Baal take care of him. Let Baal be the one that casts judgment on him if he is a god indeed. And are we here to prop up God, so to speak? Are we pleading for our God or your God that has had his altar cast down, this grove's been cut? I like the fact that Dad said this, and he even renames his son, Let Baal plead against him. In other words, if Baal is the true God and we serve him, then let's let God take care of his business against my son who has gone against what you call God, if you please. And I think the principle here is this. Look, if we're doing the Lord's will and we're doing right, then obviously we don't have to prop up God's work. We talk about defending the Word of God. Really the Word of God doesn't need defending. We preach it, I get that, and we earnestly contend for the faith. I understand all of that. But the point is God is God. And when God says, I'm going to take care of an issue, then God is very well and able to do that. We understand that. So we don't need to say, our God, our poor little God has been cast down. We need to do something for our God and help our God out. We don't need to help our God out. And if God if Baal is the god, and Dad says, you know what, let Baal take care of my son, then I believe that to be the case to this day. When we think about people, you say, well, is it of God or not? You know what? Well, let's let God take care of it. There's situations where God just steps in and says, you know what, I'm going to give an answer to this situation. And me personally, I'm okay with that, because sometimes you can say what you say, people can say what they say. When it gets down to it, you know what? God can certainly take care of himself. Isn't that a tongue-in-cheek statement to make? But he can. He's God. And God doesn't need us, but he does use us. But I believe in this case here, Dad was saying, look, let Baal, if he's God, take care of it. And he can certainly do it if he's God. Well, we know he isn't God, and God was certainly going to use Gideon in a very mighty way. So we're going to stop right there. Hope you have a great day, safe day, healthy day. Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow, and thank you for watching.